Hi there, and welcome to the Somewhere Between Here and Healing podcast. I'm Viv, your host and fellow traveler on this journey of navigating life after growing up with a narcissistic parent. Together, we'll explore the messy, the funny, and the downright unbelievable stories of family, life, and self discovery. Please let it be known I am not a therapist nor claim to be an expert in any way. I am simply someone who's been through it, still figuring things out, and I'm here to share my story with you. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get this thing started. Hey, friends, welcome back to the podcast. I know it's been a little while, but summer is, well, summering, and summer is coming to an end for us soon. So we have been doing all of the back to school things, the sports, the adventures, the you name it. We are trying to get as much in as we possibly can before the beginning of September. Once school is back in session, it will be a little easier to record the podcast. I'm hoping to get back into a weekly schedule. So, that being said, today I want to dive into something quiet, something that is quiet but loud in impact: the silent treatment. Now, this isn't about the healthy kind of taking space when you're upset or need time to cool down. This is different. This is a silence that feels heavy, strategic, maybe meant to send a message without ever saying a word. Now, if you've ever been on the receiving end of this, you know that it's more than just silence. It can be punishment, power, and pain wrapped up in that stillness. It's the kind of quiet that makes you question yourself, your worth, and can even question your memory of what happened. We're going to talk about why it's so harmful, what it can really be doing beneath the surface, and how you can start to recognize it for what it is. But before we get into it, I want to share a personal story. Because for me, understanding the silent treatment didn't start with a definition, it started with a moment, or rather, many moments that I won't forget. And this is just one example. I remember this one time, and without getting heavy into the details, let's just say I finally said something that pushed back a little in a situation. Nothing that was cruel. I didn't shout or scream. I just had questions, concerns, and was being honest. And it wasn't just for me. I was questioning things because what was happening wasn't exactly the right thing. Someone in my life, I feel, had crossed a line, had done something wrong, and I couldn't stay silent about it. The reaction to my pushback: first, there was a verbal explosion, words, harsh words, meant to sting. And then a quick shift of blame. It was almost like I was the problem. Like, how dare I question? And following that conversation, there was nothing. No texts, no calls, not even the acknowledgement that I existed. The metaphorical air between us got thick, like going through fog that you can't clear. At first, I thought, okay, well, maybe we just all need a little time to cool off. What I said wasn't that bad. But days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months. And the silence wasn't just an absence, it was a presence in itself. It had told me, to them, I had overstepped. It told me my words came with a cost. It told me, reminded me, that my role here was to absorb the wrong and keep my mouth shut if I wanted peace. And then one day, months and months later, out of seemingly nowhere, I received a text message. Not a kind of like, hey, can we talk text, but it was a passive aggressive message. One that was how horrible I was, about how I was making their life awful, how I was the reason for their misery. And that's when I understood. That silent treatment wasn't just them being upset at the situation, it was a punishment. It was a form of control. It was continuing to condition me without a word to shrink down, to stop speaking truths that made them uncomfortable. And the scariest part, it works, and it had worked. I would start to edit myself just to avoid that crushing quiet or those passive aggressive comments that would come days, weeks, months later. The silent treatment isn't just taking a breather or needing space after a disagreement, like I mentioned before. That can be healthy and it can be a good thing when emotions are running high. What I'm talking about here is different. The silent treatment is that intentional, strategic withholding of communication. Not, I need a minute to collect my thoughts, but more of a, I'm going to make you feel invisible until you learn your place. Or maybe if I'm quiet long enough, you'll forget it ever even happened. That kind of form of manipulation. And it can be a form of emotional manipulation. Sometimes it's subtle, like a quiet, cold shoulder that stretches into days. Sometimes it's overt, with visible avoidance, ignoring you in front of others, or refusing to acknowledge your presence. It's often used in relationships where control is a driving force. Silent treatment can be part of a narcissistic or emotionally abusive dynamic. But even outside of those, it's a behavior meant to destabilize you, to make you question what you did, who you are, and even how to fix things. At its core, the silent treatment is about shifting emotional balance. It's not silence for self care or reflection, it's silence as punishment. And if you have been there, you know the unspoken message it sends. You are wrong. You are bad. I'm not going to tell you what you can do to make it better. You just have to figure it out. It's not about a resolution, it is about control. So, why does the silent treatment happen? It's not random. There's most always a motivation behind it. It can be, after years and years, something that is learned, by the narcissist or manipulator, but it's not random. Sometimes it's about power and control. The person withholding communication knows it leaves you unsettled, anxious, or even desperate to repair things. They hold the key to ending the discomfort, so in that moment, they can feel in control. Other times, it can be emotional immaturity and inability to handle accountability. If taking responsibility feels threatening to them, silence is easier. No confrontation, no vulnerability, just retreat into the safety of being unreachable until it passes, until the pattern continues on again. It also can be an attempt to punish or provoke. You said something they didn't like, set a boundary they didn't want to respect, or simply disagreed with them. The silent treatment becomes a way to make you pay for stepping out of line. Another common reason, deflection. If they did do something wrong, they can flip the script. Instead of addressing their actions, they make you feel bad. Now the focus is on your guilt, your discomfort, and your need to fix things and not their behavior. And here's a big one I briefly said before. This is often a learned behavior. People who grew up in households where love, attention, or approval was withdrawn as punishment sometimes carry those patterns into adulthood. In people with narcissistic traits, it's almost a go to tactic because it works. And that's the last point here. Sometimes they use it simply because it works. If the silent treatment makes you tiptoe around them, if it stops you from bringing up issues, if it shapes you into being more accommodating, if it allows the moment to pass without accountability, why would they stop? It reinforces their power and teaches you to avoid conflict or rejection at your own expense. The truth is, silence used in this way isn't neutral, it is active, it's calculated, and it changes the dynamic between two people, and usually in a way that benefits only one of them. So let's talk about what it can look like. The silent treatment isn't always so obvious at first. A lot of times it hides in plain sight. It can look like no responses to text or calls, even though you can see them perhaps active online or on their phone, on social media. They can be posting, liking, commenting, just not on anything connected to you. The message is clear: I see you, but I'm choosing not to engage. It can look like the cold shoulder in person, silence, avoidance, and those small but cutting gestures like eye rolls, sighs, or walking out of the room when you enter. You start to notice the way they avoid your gaze, as if acknowledging you would give you too much power back. It can show up as withholding affection, care, or participation in shared responsibilities. Meals might not be made like they normally are. Household tasks they used to help with suddenly get ignored. That arm around you on the couch is gone, replaced with a wall of distance. Sometimes it's accidentally forgetting important things: your birthday, an appointment, or something you explicitly asked them to do. It's neglect, but with a little twist of denial. Oh, I forgot. Except somehow what's forgotten is always the thing that matters the most to you. And then one of the most jarring forms, pretending nothing happened later with no acknowledgement. They can go days, weeks, even months without a word, and then suddenly reappear like nothing is wrong. A casual, hey, how are you, or invitation to dinner, as if the silence never existed, and you're left wondering, do I bring it up and risk it happening again? Or do I just swallow it so we can have peace for now? So before we move on, I do want to make a little note here because silent treatment can be used in many ways and for various reasons. And it's important to understand that the silent treatment I'm talking about here in this podcast is not the same as, say, setting intentional boundaries. The silent treatment that I'm talking about is a form of manipulation, like withholding connection as punishment, leaving the other person walking on eggshells and waiting for that silence to break. When you choose to step back, for example, that's about protecting yourself, creating space, and waiting for something, accountability, the very least, something that shows that the relationship can move forward in a healthy way. One is about control, and the other is about self preservation. And maybe we'll do another episode about the other side of this in the short future. But I just wanted to clear that up. So, moving on, the silent treatment and what it feels like. Now, if you've ever been on the receiving end of silent treatment, you know it's not just silence. It's a kind of noise that you do hear in your head all day long. Often, first, there's confusion. You can replay the moment or moments over and over. Did I really do something that bad? Am I overreacting? You start rewriting the memory to make sense of their withdrawal. Then comes guilt. Even if you know deep down you don't deserve this, you start internalizing the blame. If I had just kept my mouth shut, if I'd worded it differently, if I could just apologize. The anxiety is constant. You find yourself walking on eggshells, checking your phone more than usual, scanning for signs of when or if they might come back, waiting ultimately for that passive aggressive message to come. Every little sound from your phone can send your heart racing. And there's sadness and loneliness too. There's an ache of being physically present but emotionally abandoned. You can be sitting literally right next to someone and still feel like you've been erased. And perhaps that's the deepest cut, feeling erased. It's as if your feelings, your perspective, your very existence, your thoughts in their world have been muted. You can become background noise in your own life story. When this is part of a pattern, it can destabilize your sense of reality. You start doubting yourself, your memories, your worth. And that's what makes a silent treatment so dangerous. It's not just about the moment, it's about the way it can rewire your thinking to keep you small, compliant, and possibly afraid of speaking up again. So, how does the cycle reinforce itself? This is where the silent treatment becomes more than just a one time thing, it becomes a pattern. And if you've been on the receiving end, you probably do know this part very well. At some point, the silence becomes unbearable. So you cave. You send the first text. You apologize, even if you know in your gut you didn't do anything wrong. You reach out just to end the discomfort because the weight of not knowing when or if they'll acknowledge you again is too heavy to carry. And here's what happens in their mind, even if it's not conscious. Oh, so if I go quiet, they'll come to me. I don't have to take responsibility. I don't have to explain myself. All I have to do is disappear until it disappears or until I get what I want. Every time you fold to break the silence, it reinforces that behavior. It rewards it. And the more it works, the more it gets used. It becomes a silent weapon they know they can pull out whenever you challenge them, whenever you set a boundary, whenever you speak the truth or a truth they don't want to hear. The emotional cost of this cycle is huge. Over time, it erodes your self worth, and not in one big moment, but in small, repeated cuts. You start to believe the silence means you are the problem. You can start shrinking yourself to avoid triggering it. And before you know it, your voice, your real, authentic voice, has gone quiet too. We talked about this briefly, but I want to remind you not all silence is harmful. Healthy silence is necessary sometimes. We all need moments to cool off, process our emotions, gather our thoughts, etc. In a healthy relationship, silence sounds like I need a moment. I need a moment to myself. I need a moment to calm down. I need a moment to figure things out. Let's talk soon. It comes with clarity, respect for each other, and the intention to repair the connection. Unhealthy silence is a whole different animal. It's ghosting you to make a point. It's withholding connection and affection as punishment. It's leaving you to sit alone in confusion and pain with no explanation, no roadmap to repair, and no sense of when or if the conversation will resume. And a lot of times, that particular conversation does not resume. So here's the difference. Healthy silence is a pause with purpose. It's a temporary step back that creates room for understanding and resolution. Unhealthy silence is a wall. It's designed not to repair, but to control. Silence should be a bridge to better communication, not a weapon that deepens the wound. If silence increases the damage and it leaves you feeling smaller, less sure of yourself, or terrified to speak up, it's not healthy. And it's not love in action, no matter how it's labeled. The silent treatment can make you feel powerless, but here's the thing, you do have tools. You may not be able to control their behavior, but you can control how you respond and how much power it has over you. First, acknowledge what's happening. Name it for yourself. Say, this is silent treatment. This is a manipulation tactic, not a reflection of my worth. Naming it can break some of its hold because you're shifting it from a foggy, emotional reaction into something that you can see clearly. Second, don't chase it every time. I know, it's easier said than done. The urge to fix things, make them right, to get the discomfort over with, it is strong. But every time you chase, it teaches them that silence works. Give yourself the space to breathe. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not take that bait. Third, journal or record voice notes. The silent treatment has a way of making you doubt your memory and your reality. Writing or speaking your thoughts while they're fresh keeps your clarity intact. And later, if and when they try to rewrite the story, you'll have your own words to remind you what actually happened. Fourth, seek validation outside the dynamic. This is huge. Talk. Talk to friends, a therapist, or a trusted community. When you're isolated, the silent treatment is even more effective because you're left alone with their version of events. Outside voices can remind you of so much. You're not wrong for having feelings. You're not crazy. Fifth, recognize the manipulation and slowly start building your way out of that cycle. This might mean setting stronger boundaries. It might mean limiting contact. It might mean preparing yourself to step away entirely if the behavior never changes. And it's not easy. It is not easy. And finally, only if you are comfortable and only if it is safe to do so, feel free to call it out directly. You don't need to be dramatic. You can be calm and clear. Something like, I notice you've gone silent after I've shared how I felt, and I don't feel that's fair to me. You can name the behavior without spiraling into defense mode. The goal here isn't to change them or really change anything, because likely you won't, but it is to protect you. The silent treatment can make you feel like you're losing your voice. But every step you take to recognize it, resist it, and seek truth outside of it, that's you taking your voice back. Do it for you. So let's wrap up. If you've lived in that space where the quiet isn't peaceful, where it's heavy, it presses on your chest, it makes you question if you're too much or not enough, I want to remind you your voice matters. Your feelings matter. You matter. You are not meant to be punished for speaking your truth. If someone can only connect with you when you're compliant or silent, that's not a relationship. That's control. And control is not love. You can reclaim your power in small, steady ways. Notice the silence for what it is. Name the pattern. Choose not to dance the same exhausting dance steps every time. Sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is keep your dignity intact while refusing to play the game. So let me ask you a couple of questions to reflect on. Have you ever been silenced? Not by words necessarily, but by absence. What does your silence mean? And what might it cost you to fill someone else's silence? What would it look like if you gave that energy back to yourself instead? And with that, if no one has told you lately, you deserve to be heard. Even in your quietest moments, your voice still exists. Take care of it and take care of you. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening and spending time with me today. I appreciate you all so much. If you haven't already, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow me on social media. Your support means the world. Plus, it really helps a podcast grow and reach more people like us. And don't forget, I'd love to hear from you. Send me your questions, share your story, or just drop by to say hello at vivvance@gmail.com. Until next time, remember, healing isn't linear, life can be unpredictable, but you are never alone in this journey. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.